ABC News reports 220 lawsuits in 100 days. Trump administration faces unprecedented legal blitz. The administration has been sued over nearly every element of Trump's agenda. And then, of course, this report, which we've covered from Congress.gov several times, talking about how Donald Trump has more universal injunctions filed against his administration than all other administrations. And he has around 40% of all universal injunctions ever issued. And, well, I got to say, they're unconstitutional. But, right now, the big question is, how are we doing? How does Donald Trump hold up in your view? Do you hold him in great esteem in these 100 days?
Look, he's just for the results at the border alone, I give him a B+, right? Because we went from having a massive influx every day, thousands or tens of thousands of people coming into the country every single day to, almost none or very, very, very few. And that was simply by enforcing the law and implementing what really amount to small changes. There have been no significant changes. Maybe they're a decent sized changes because there are military assets at the border. So he activated the National Guard, I guess, or actually I think it was the Marine Corps. But they're actually doing something. That alone, that was fulfilling one of the major reasons that people voted for Donald Trump. So right off the bat, I think he's at least doing okay.
I think it's interesting that the discussion this time around in his second term has changed the focus from, I feel like in the first term, now maybe it's just been such a long time since I focused on that, was that it was about the building of the border wall, and it was about trying to get the financing and the funding for the border wall. But what focusing on deportations has done is it's thrown into contrast just how similar previous administrations were on this topic to show you just how far left things have gone within certain sections of the Democratic Party. Because if you look at the numbers when Barack Obama was in office between deportations and turnaways at the border, you see something fairly similar. Despite the fact that they were letting a lot of people in, they were getting those numbers up by turning people away at the border and reclassifying those deportations. So for those who are willing to look into it and those who actually want to grow and see where politics has changed, you can look at what things were like between 2008 and 2016, and you can see a vast shift. And I think maybe that's not the focus of the first 100 days, but for the people that are paying close attention, it kind of helps form a narrative for things.
I'm going to go with the grading because you went with the grading. I'm going to go B+ as well, not just because of the border, though. He is balls to the wall with executive orders. He's doing everything he can possibly do. You have to remember when you're putting in cabinet members, nothing can really get accomplished until you have the staffing for those cabinet members. So you have a bunch of people in there with a bunch of great ideas that hopefully will have the backup soon to be able to enact them. But as far as what he can do personally from the White House and from the Oval Office, I think he's done more than what any other president has ever done, especially as a conservative and a Republican. He came in, I think he learned from his first 4 years. He came in like a bull in a china shop and signed everything. Literally, I don't even know when the man has a break from signing executive orders at this point, basically.
I don't know when the man sleeps. Yeah. Apparently he sleeps 6 hours a night.
Sounds about right.
That's crazy. So the big question here, though, is approval. So RCP approval ratings in aggregate has Trump at -7. But I do want to stress, completely meaningless. Society is collapsing. The end is nigh. And these polls are, I'm exaggerating, guys. The polls mean absolutely nothing is what I'm trying to say. You've got NPR, ABC, CNN, and I believe Daily Mail, and New York Times and CBS. They're all saying in the past week, Trump is double digits underwater. Mm-hmm. Right? That's crazy. Now, Rasmussen has him -4, and they tend to be more accurate. And, we had the guy from Rasmussen on recently, and they have been very, very accurate. But my issue with the aggregate polling right now is that you can have two polls, one saying Trump is up 1, and the next day he's -9, or I should say the next period. Then he's -2. They're all completely different and random. Back, let's just go back 8 years when I used to cover a lot more of this stuff in the first Trump term, and I'd always go for these polls and I'd be tracking them every day. They were fairly similar. They'd all have Trump at like -6 or 7, and they wouldn't change that much because what's really going on? How is it that you've got these corporate polls showing Trump double digits underwater. And the swing from the polls is insane. This week it's plus that, then it's minus that. That's why I say it's largely meaningless. But what I will say is Trump is down. Okay. Rasmussen had Trump up at the beginning of the month at, I believe he was +4, and now he's -4. So it was a big swing. This is not good for Donald Trump, but I don't think it's apocalyptic. Now, the reason why I don't want to use aggregates, as I often say, people are going to be like, Tim, you always say use aggregates. It's because they're all randomized at this point. All the polls, all these pollsters have changed their systems up, and now they're giving wildly different numbers across the board. Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.